Uh, Thank you, madam, for giving me the confirmation. So today I'll be sharing with you my views on business ethics. Towards this, I would like to take you to the roadmap of my presentation. So first, I'll be dealing with the concept of ethics. Second, the difference between ethics and values. And third, I'll be talking about business ethics, wherein I will be discussing the principles behind business ethics and the ethical issues faced by an employee in an organization, as well as the customers associated with the organization. So let me take you to the first topic, that is the concept. So the dictionary definition of ethics is the ability to distinguish between what is right and wrong. Now, to give you an example, I would say that it is wrong to hit a person without any reason. And of course, it is wrong to exercise power over the weaker people, or in fact, it is also wrong to exercise power over an animal. So now this concept of hitting a person could become ethical when it is analyzed in different situations. For example, if someone attacks you and you retaliate in defense, then of course it becomes ethical. So let us take another example, the concept of abortion. The concept of abortion is considered to be morally unethical, but under different circumstances, it can be ethical. For example, if a girl is forced into conceiving a child and she wants to abort the child, then it is considered to be ethical. So let us take the concept of mercy killing. Now, mercy killing is considered to be unethical in countries like India, and it is moreover it is not legalized. But in other countries, it is considered to be ethical, and it is also legalized. So, depending upon the variations in a particular situation, the concepts, the ideas, could be or our actions could be considered as ethical or as unethical. So, having understood the concept of ethics, let us now move on to the concept of the four divisions of ethics. So here I will be discussing the four types of ethics. So first is descriptive ethics, where we try to analyze the moral beliefs of people. And second is normative ethics, where we tend to tell people how one ought to behave in a particular situation. Then meta ethics, where a person should be able to reflect upon his or her own actions, and try to analyze the situation from different perspectives before arriving at a particular solution. But in metaethics, you only think, you only reflect upon your actions. You don't apply the solution or what you have understood from your actions. So applied ethics is the next concept that normally it is believed that when you reflect upon a situation, you also tend to apply your right behavior in the or ethical principles in the organization. So in today's talk, I'll be dealing about applied ethics, which is also called as organizational ethics. So having understood this, let us now move on to the concept of ethics versus values. The question arises, so from where do we understand, or where do we get the knowledge of differentiating between what is right and wrong? This ability to differentiate between what is right and wrong is derived from our parents who inculcate within us the values of, for example, respecting our elders, or being kind to people, being helpful to people, not to tell a lie, not to steal. All these are values that we inculcate during our childhood. Of course, the values could differ from person to person depending upon the cultural variations. But some of the values, which I have told you just now, they are considered to be universal. So based on these universal values, we derive our ethical principles. So we understand that if a person is helpful, we understand that the action is right. And we say that, if a person is kind, we say that his action is right. Whereas if a person is unkind, we say that the action is wrong. So the values finally help us to determine ethical principles. So having said this, I would like now to move on to the next topic, that is business ethics. So in business ethics, I'll be dealing with the principles of business ethics. So we all know that ethical behavior is a crucial component of a business success and employee trust. Organizations rely on leaders and employees to make the right choice at work. Ethical principles in business are the moral standards set by a company as a whole, and also for an individual working within an organization. These principles take into account certain things, that is values, then the standards, then the regulations, and of course the common industry rules. Now, and they also dictate how a person ought to behave, or the employees ought to behave in the workplace, and how business operates in the community. Organization with a solid moral foundation develop trust and gain credibility with the clients and employees. A strong reputation builds a loyal consumer base. Achieving success legally and ethically is a more sustainable a long-term success. So, having said this, I would say that these principles are important for every organization, and these principles have to be followed by all the employees and the leaders, of course, who are working in the organization. So, having said this, I would like now to move on to the next topic of well, that is the principles that are commonly followed in an organization. So, the first principle is the principle of leadership. We believe that a leader is the one who simply delegates responsibility to the employees. But the leader's concept, goes further than this. That is, the leader not only delegates responsibility to the employees, but also motivates the employees to work towards the goals of the organization. A good leader will not only motivate, but also try to help the employees whenever they are in need. A good leader will also not discriminate between people. A good leader will see to it that he or she doesn't gossip about the other person, the other employee, when the person is not available. So a good leader will have all the traits of a person who actually is not biased, who is not prejudiced towards a particular employee, and works neutrally towards achieving the goals of the organization. Then comes the concept of accountability. So an employee has to be accountable when he or she is working in the organization, accountable towards the responsibility that is assigned, accountable to the organization, and so on. And then, of course, integrity, that is having the ability to be honest all the time, and respecting others, and also um, expecting respect from others. We have to be honest, that is, not accept bribes and not give bribes to anybody, and respect for the laws. So the all organization will have certain laws, laws related to, for example, filing a patent, or laws related to, for example, not claiming a patent as their own if they are filing a patent in relation with the organization, or in association with the organization, or as a part of the organization. So these are certain laws that needs to be taken into account. Then I will go on with the next principle, that is the responsibility. So every employee should be responsible towards the organization, also towards the work that is assigned, and there should be transparency when there is a deal between for example, the organization and the clients, the customers. So that is very important, and everybody should be compassionate. That is, everybody should be kind towards one another. When you are kind, you obviously are empathetic also. You tend to understand the situation of the other person. You tend to understand keeping yourself in the position of the other person. And then there should be fairness, that nobody should be discriminated on the basis of color, skin color, on the basis of the clothes that they wear, on the basis of the looks. It should be a fair justice given to all. The rules should be uniform, or the rules should be equal for all the employees in the organization. So if somebody gets, leave for 10 days, then all the people should be, employees should be allowed to take leave for 10 days. So depending upon that, the rules should be fair. Otherwise, employees will lose trust in the organization, and employees will tend to give the resignation, frequently in the organization. Then loyalty. You have to be loyal towards your work. You have to be loyal towards your service. You have to be loyal towards the organization. And that is, you have to win the confidence of the organization, of your superiors. That means your loyalty means that you should not, keep feeling that you always want a hike in your salary. Whenever you want a hike in your salary, you can approach your superiors. A hike in a salary is given only when it is justified, that you have done this kind of work, or it is justified that you have achieved, this particular level. So that way, you have to be loyal. And of course, the organization should also have environmental concerns. That is, the organization, when they come, they're manufacturing a particular product, they should take into consideration whether the society is not affected while they're manufacturing the product. The people living around the area is not infected, or there is no harm done to the people, or the environment, that is, the atmosphere is not infected or affected by the product that they are manufacturing. So, for example, the use of the technology that is actually harming, the environment or harming the people in many ways. The organization who have come into this kind of innovation or have come into this kind of technological and breakthrough in technology are not taking that to consideration. For example, building towers of mobile towers, or putting mobile towers in most of the buildings, in and around the residential area, that is a serious concern for the environment as well as, for the people living around that area. But that is not considered, and that is something which should be considered, as that is the main principle of an organization. So, having understood the principles of business ethics, let us move now on to the next concept, that is ethical issues that are normally faced in an organization. So, here are some ethical issues. The first is unethical accounting. Now, some organizations, there are many cases, where the organizations, they have been giving false report about that they are profiting. There's a profit margin has been increasing while selling that particular product. But that may not be the case. They are just trying to create this imaginary situation, so that the other customers, they are fooled, or they are convinced that this is an organization where they're profiting and this product is doing very well in the market, and that is how they also tend to fall into the trap. So unethical accounting can actually lead to mistrust, and unethical accounting does not help to win the customers. Rather, in the long run, it can actually lead to various problems for the organization. And then the social media. So again, I would raise this question over here, that the social media is used by all. So when you're working in an institution or an organization as an employee, is it wrong if the employee or employee in an institution or an organization uses the social media? It should not be wrong. You can use the social media because you have the freedom to use social media. But in some cases, we have found that people who have used social media in order to express their personal feelings, or in order to express their personal opinion, they have been actually sacked by the organization and or by the institution. So again, there is a big question over here, whether it is right or whether it is wrong. From the organization's perspective, if it is hampering the image of the organization, it is wrong. But in what way the image of the organization will be hampered? It can, because the person who is associated with social media or is trying to post pictures of his personal life, the image of that person will be hampered and not the image of the organization. So, I mean, a person should be allowed to use social media. That is what I feel. But most organizations do not consider it to be a right move. Now, let us go on to the next topic, that is harassment and discrimination. So even though there are many people voicing the concern about harassment and discrimination, and there are many laws or many ways people are trying to oppose this harassment and discrimination, but nevertheless, this harassment and discrimination continues. In many ways, this harassment continues. This discrimination continues. The discrimination between employees working in the organization, it continues. It has been there and it is still continuing. So discrimination in terms of, so for example, not assigning responsibility or taking away your responsibility and giving it to someone else. You have been doing something for the past 3-4 years. You have been designing something, maybe you're designing activities, or you have been designing certain, like you have been filing patents. And so if it is taken, from your responsibility, it is given to someone else. So automatically, that there is discrimination that is happening. So this kind of discrimination should be avoided by the organization. Then health and safety. All organizations should be concerned about the health and safety of the employees. So if employees have to work late hours in the organization, they have to ensure the safety of the employees, so they can work freely without any without any stress, without any thought that they are not safe. And of course, the health issues are very important. You cannot allow an employee to work on and on without giving them a break in between. So that is very important. And especially the chemical factories, they have to be very particular about this particular point, because there might be issues. And there are many cases like this where, employees have lost their lives because of the negligence of the company, or the company not taking care about the health and safety of the employees. Then technology and privacy. The organization gives the freedom to the employees to use technology, and of course to use the technology for the benefits of the organization. But sometimes it has been found that employees do tend to also do their personal work. So to a certain extent, you can, go ahead with your personal work. But if the organization tries to all the time monitor, the what the employees are doing with the use of technology, for example, which website they're browsing, which what are they searching in Google search engine, is it related to to their work, is it necessary for them to read the particular article, and so on. If that is done, then actually you are there's an infringement of your privacy. So all these things, the organization has to take care, and these are certain ethical issues that have to be addressed, and organizations should be very particular about these kind of issues. So let us now discuss the next topic, and that is what kind of ethical issues do the customers face. Now, the customers, when they are associated with an organization, most of the time, the major ethical issue that they face is the organization giving false claims about the product. False claims, like, for example, we have the Fair and Lovely product, where the false claim is that you can become fair within a week. So that is a false claim. Then you have some, like soft drinks, where they say that if you drink this, you become, your memory enhances, or you feel cool, you feel good about it, and so on. Then there are hidden terms in the user agreement. So when you go to buy a particular product, so certain terms, they're hidden, they are not told, and later on, when you have to, when you face any difficulty, then such hidden terms come into existence. So these are some of the ethical issues that the customer faces when they are associated with the organization. Next, we move on to the next point, that is the employers. Employees, what kind of issues do they face? Employees face poor working condition as a major issue in an organization. These poor working conditions could be as a result of maybe the environment is not conducive to working, or it is not an environment where people are actually interacting with each other out of trust, because there is always a misinterpretation of information that is occurring. So if I say something that is misinterpreted as something else, and the blame is put on me, so it is absolutely not an environment that we like to work for. And there could be other issues. For example, the place of eating may not be hygienic, or when you drink water, that may not be the water that is supplied, the organization, that may not be actually the good drinking water. So all these factors, result in poor working conditions. And if these are the issues that the employees face, obviously the employees will stop working in the organization, or the employees might even lose trust on the organization, and such organization cannot survive for a very long time. Such organization, they tend to die out after a period of time. Then there's obviously certain organizations, there is a issue of sexual harassment. So if the sexual harassment continues, or is evident in an organization, again, it is very difficult to work in such organizations. So having said this, I would like now to move on to the next topic, that is unfair competition. So unfair competition exists in an organization and employees have to face this unfair competition. For example, there is defamation, then we have this trade secret misappropriation. Now, the trade secret, you all know, is actually a formula or a technique that is used by an organization in order to, prepare the product. So, for example, we have the Coca-Cola formula, or we have the chemical substance used in Listerine mouthwash. So, this type of trade secret, is can be protected by the organization, but the organization has to be very careful as to whom they're assigning the task of letting the people know, who are the employees that they are actually letting them know about this trade secret, because sometimes an employee could be disloyal towards the organization and they can leak out this trade secret to their competitors. So the threats of the organization could be external as well as internal in nature. Externally, the other organization might try to steal the trade secret, and internally, one of the employees could, be disloyal, and therefore they can, leak out the information. So this is something that we have to be careful. And then, of course, bribery. Bribery is, it's quite common in most of the organizations. Now, this bribery actually does not help, in the growth of the organization, or does not help to win the trust of the customers or the employees. And so one has to be very careful when you're dealing with such kind of unfair competition. Next, we move on to the next topic, that is, there's some aspects which are considered to be legal. They might be unethical, but they are considered to be legal. So let us consider these aspects. For example, selling customer data. Now you all know that you might be receiving so many calls, from various sources, from various the financial institutions, from various other organizations, in related to business, of course. But this, like from where they have got this data has been given to them or sold to them by the mobile service, the mobile service people. And so therefore, I can say that this selling of customer data is actually unethical, because without the permission of the customer, you are selling the customer data to somebody else, to a third party. And so this third party can misuse the data in any way they want to misuse. So sometimes we can receive these calls of, of actually squandering your money, of actually trying to, convince you that you will be getting so much rupees, and if you invest, in a small amount, and so on. So therefore, one has to be very careful. So what I say, my main concern over here is, this concept is unethical. It should actually be stopped by the government. It cannot be legalized that you're selling customer data. And then next point is complex securities. So when we go for certain investments, so those investments, the terms and conditions laid down by those kind of investments, we are not very sure about what kind of terms and conditions are being laid out. It is not clear. So they're very complex to understand. Moreover, there's no one to explain to us about the terms and conditions with the clarity. So this kind of complex securities can actually baffle the customers, and it can lead to lot of misinterpretation of information. So even though it is considered as unethical, it is still legalized in most of the countries. So I feel that this also should be stopped by the government, so that customers are very clear about where they're doing the investment and what are the terms and conditions. They're very easy to understand, or somebody needs to be able to explain to them what are the terms and conditions on the basis of which they are investing their money. Having said this, I would like now to thank all of you for your patient listening. And this is my YouTube channel, where I have also uploaded certain other videos on ethics. You can have a look at them in case you are interested. And if you have any questions, you can definitely write to me. My mail ID is already there with Professor Vinaya Kumari. So you can write to me, and you can clarify your doubts. Thank you once again.